And just like that, they buy it. They eat it up. You pander to them, you thank them. I mean, really, people, I thought you were a little bit smarter than that. I mean, it's just so easy to say the name of the city. You cheer.
Hey, Stephanie,
You cheer. I mean, just come on.
Welcome to the A Show.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the A Show with the Kings of Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am Justin, here with Meelz, and welcome you all our listeners, all of our fans, to the 150th episode of the A Show. 150 weeks. We started this from humble beginnings. Well, really just me calling Meelz and saying, okay, get your mic out, let's do this right now. And we've grown to this. There's a 150th episode, 150 weeks. I just told Meelz that, and he did not seem enthused that he's talked to me for 150 weeks.
I don't want to say that I didn't seem enthused. Don't put words in my mouth. It's more so like, yo, you realize, you know what it was? I'm watching the Joe Budden podcast, right? And I'm seeing their whole back and forth with Spotify and a lot of different things. And all they asked for was like, hey, we need a break for the holidays. And Spotify said, actually, that will not happen. Actually, you guys will continue to record because this is part of your contract. And I'm like, damn, that sucked. But luckily, we don't have those kind of issues because we are a lowly non-DSP exclusive related podcast. We're kind of just like, we're building our own as we build our own thing. I'm not, disappointed at all. I think 150, it's crazy that I'm doing it for 150 weeks straight and that we can actually put that claim to fame. I think the hardest part about podcasting, they even said that, they said on Joe Budden podcast, but honestly, I feel like I've been podcasting longer than he is, so I'm going to take the veteran responsibility on this. The hardest part about it is definitely keeping consistency, and we've been as consistent as they come, and I think that the people have appreciated. So thank you to everyone who has listened over the last 150 weeks, or even if you've been listening for 75 weeks, or even if you've been listening for 50 weeks, or even if this is your first week listening. Thank you for listening to this podcast, because, we couldn't do it without you guys, honestly, and that's the truth.
Yeah, I really think that when you think of what the A Show has done, it's more than really just a platform. I mean, it is two friends learning more about each other and talking to each other every single week through wrestling. But it's also like this was the thing that catapulted so many things that we have now, whether it be the Elite Channel, whether it be the Lookout, whether it be any like RNC Radio in general. It wasn't a thing before the A Show. And the A Show kind of pioneered that idea and made me believe that this type of thing was possible. So, if not for the listeners, if not for the people saying, yo, I listen to your show every single morning. As soon as it hits at 5 a.m., it gets me right on my commute to work. I listen to it at the gym. I've had people come up to me before in the city and say that they listen to the show. You know what I mean? Like
I've never had that
crazy
experience ever in my life, but God bless you. God bless you, that one gentleman.
Even down to the people that like say that they, people within the industry that listen to it, or people outside of the industry that listen to it. Like that's I don't want to say like, oh my God, we have so much clout, but it just makes me feel really good that something that we create gives people so much joy, and it's crazy. It's a crazy feeling.
You know what I would like to ask for our listeners, and it's great that we're doing this on the top of the show. First of all, what I'd like to ask is, honestly, rate our stuff 5 stars on iTunes and all this other stuff, and follow us on RNC Radio Live, and give us all your follows and stuff. But what I'd really like to ask is, more particularly, what would you guys like to see from like the next 150 episodes or even next 50 episodes or even like moving forward? What would you guys like to see? Do you guys like more of the hot takes? Should we bring it back a little bit more often than we do now? Do you guys want to see something new incorporated? Do you guys want to see listen to more guests? Do you guys want to hear wrestlers? What do you guys want to actually listen to? Our hotlines are open. Feel free to add myself and Justin. We'll take everything kind of account, especially considering you guys are the ones who make our show. Damn, why did this thing in the background have to just start thinging in the background? But
what was that?
I don't know. It's just, I don't know if I'm being abducted or what, but New
That's
York,
what happens
that's
when
what
we
it
shield.
is.
It's what happens when we shield too much from the show.
A little bit.
They take us away. The white,
a little.
And you know what's crazy is that like the white people still haven't taken us yet. So like that, I mean, we've been real. Like we haven't been sucked up by any entity yet. We haven't sold out. We've even tried ads on the show and people like really liked it.
Yeah,
and I didn't I never thought that was possible.
You know what was the best part of ads on the show? When people were genuinely happy for us that we had ads on the show. I thought that was the most amazing thing on earth. That kind of feeling of community, and it didn't go unnoticed because I legitimately thought that was the most awesome thing in the world because it kind of shown our growth. Now, since then, we have not had ads on the show for various reasons.
That process is so like the actual site or resource we were using for that. It was so like crushing. It was almost like filling out a job interview, right? Like
yeah, and then you know. I don't want to get too much into it, but yes. And the thing was, it's like we have. Should I shoot on that resource right now? The thing about that resource is that I recommended it to our peers. You know what I'm saying? Like I recommended it because the way it was given to us, it was like, yes, this is a platform for people who don't necessarily can't get all the big ads or the big name ads, who aren't like on Spotify or who aren't doing all these things. These are for people, so you have sort of that, that direct link to a company and you can pitch it to them and you can, do this and make a little money. So I legitimately offered it to people and I was like, hey, this is a great resource. It worked out for us. I hope it works out for you guys. And then it just sucked hearing nothing from them either. And it was just, it's unfortunate. I think a lot of us are coming up with creative content. I want to shout out to all the podcasts who are kind of doing it. Shout out to Stack Eye Greg and GP. Shout out to the Black Announce Table. Shout out to, I was on the Gully Blanchard podcast the other day. Shout out to them. That was a fun experience. But shout out to everybody who's kind of really doing it. I mean, there's even more. Damn, I don't want to think because I'm obviously going to forget the names, but there's so many people actually doing it and creating this great content, and creating just being creatives in itself and just being creative things. And we deserve an opportunity to be fired too, because we do the damn thing. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Wrestle Rap too. Why did I forget Wrestle Rap? That's like our humble beginnings.
Yeah, that really is. I wouldn't know you without Wrestle Rap and Emilio and Kaz and Jeff J and everybody there. Like, so shout out to them. Ben Coyle, and even around to like, shit, I'll even say Busby was a big part of like the reason why this type of show exists. Honestly, it's kind of crazy, right? But I mean, even to some of our new pals, you know what I'm saying? Like Novak, who just a incredible resource of just information and, being so tapped in. And, I looked at that's the first account I look at in the morning and to find out news, you know what I mean? It's his account. And
now we have our own network. You know what I'm saying? Now we have Spot Callers hosted by Cyrus. Now we have the War Report hosted by Cyrus. And thank you to everybody in the past, over the last number of years who, helped out. I mean, from Murjani to Kaito to everybody else who helped kind of build this from here on. I'm not going to ignore them just because we're no longer working with them, but I would like to at least thank them for helping out in this sort of process moving forward. And we've got a new show with Armand and Channing and stuff. They did a great episode, by the way. In episode 2, the Shawn Michaels, what if he never broke his back story. It's like an angle that I don't think is talked about enough, because without it
would change everything.
It would change so much, because if anyone was built for that, like, second half of the Attitude Era, like the Attitude Era boom, it was him. And probably would have added a lot more added a lot more stars to matches, because the Attitude Era, like, most notably, has like shitty matches.
Has no 5 stars.
No, yeah,
no 5 stars.
Not one. So he would have definitely added to that. But like even that, shout to Armand, shout to Channing, shout to CC, and everybody at the Rewriters Room. Shout to just everything we're building, and we continue to hope to build and create an amazing network and content for you guys. That's it.
Yeah, so yeah, that is our 150 spiel. I think that Meelz would agree that we're going to save a bigger show for 200. So stick with us until around this time next year. We'll be at 200. So come 2021, we'll be here. Unless Meelz hits me in the back with a steel chair and says there's Plan B.
Nah, I don't think I'll do that.
I'll probably do it to you. Let's get into the news. Let's get into the news. First up, shout out to Robert O'Neill. He is, I have to say, wrestling Twitter pariah, right? Like he's
okay. Because I was confused for a second because I was like, I thought you hated him.
I don't hate Robert.
Not like hate, but like, you know.
I actually think he needs more hate. He needs some of the hate that I get, honestly, shit. But he's a great guy,
strong and very well, my friend.
Whatever. He's a great guy. He's another one of the great content creators and voices on wrestling Twitter, along with a lot of the many other ones that have popped up since we started on the scene. But after Sunday's Payback show, he was looking for Brock Lesnar merch, and I saw this in real time happen. He saw that there was no Brock Lesnar merch, and he was not on the site. So he said something's up. And next thing you know, there was a Fightful report that came out on Monday that Brock Lesnar was now a free agent. Somehow the 2-year deal slipped past me. I thought that deal started with the Kane match. It's been 2 years since that?
So I was more so confused that it was just only 2 years. I thought, and the thing is, the 2-year deal, it started during because remember, it kind of low-key expired during that summer when Brock dropped the title to Roman in 2018, and they were supposed to go to Saudi and do that next show, and then Roman has to give up the title. So we all thought Braun was going to win the title around this time.
Yes.
And then, of course,
we had to wait another year for that.
Of course not. That never happened until just late right now. But that's the time period that I remember. So the fact that his entire contract has just expired and they haven't come to a new deal, it's interesting, and it makes me kind of think more so of like maybe because I'm looking at it from the deals that WWE are giving out now. This isn't Brock's first deal. This is actually probably going to be like his 5th or 6th deal, in like the last, like, let's say 20 years or so, which is quite a bit. But WWE, they're locking down people. They're not necessarily giving out these deals. And it's just like, Brock probably wants, if I'm Brock and I know the commodity that I am, and I know that thing, I'm not really tied to a company that long. So I'm doing 1-year deals, 2-year deals. It's like, what Braun does. Like, Braun comes out, he was like, he's just re-upping every year. Like, don't even worry about it. Like, sometimes he may want to return to LA. He may want to go back to Cleveland. I doubt that he's ever going back to Cleveland.
Oh, I thought you meant Braun Strowman. You meant LeBron. I was like,
no, I was talking about, no. Braun's in whatever mess he's in right now.
You got to say the whole name. It's 2 different Brauns I know of.
I'm thinking you LA Braun. Listen, this is what it is.
Okay.
But I'm thinking similar to that for Brock Lesnar. But just to hear that he hasn't signed, I mean, it may be. I'm only saying that maybe it's the deal that WWE's bring to him, and he's just like, nah, I'm not really trying to be here for that long. What do you make of Brock Lesnar no longer being currently employed in WWE?
It's a little bit of that, and also I think it's a little bit of where the world is right now. I think because of COVID, he's probably thinking, why the hell would I sign right now? I'm not leaving to go there with that sloppy shit y'all had going on. I'm not, and I think honestly it is what, like, you saw how many people return once they started normalizing testing and went to an actual arena. Everyone came back because they're not playing that shit in the Amway Center. You know what I mean? So like at the end of the day, I think that a lot of it had to do with COVID and the fact that he's probably not leaving Saskatchewan or wherever the hell he lives to put his family at risk or in danger. I think that this is more than likely going to be his last deal. Same way with like Rey Mysterio signing that 3-year deal with an option. I think he had his option out like a year and a half in a year and a half or something like that. And I think Brock is just being smart about it. I don't think he's not going to come back. I think again, look at his last deal. He worked so many pay-per-views in the last 2 years, more than we've ever seen him. Like the whole Brock is a part-timer thing is capped now. He worked almost every Saudi event, I think, like more than one Saudi event.
Oh, if it was a Saudi event, he definitely was going. I mean,
he was there, and he worked so many Raws leading up to WrestleMania, especially even the ones with Drew before Mania of this year. He did a lot, and I think if he wants to break, that's fine. There's nothing really popping anyway. He can't really travel.
If he wants a break.
I mean, but the thing, I'm saying just in terms of like the fact that he had this deal before and he worked so much. So like, if he wants to go back to that once every quarter type deal, that's probably what he's working out. I really just don't think. I think people are being a little bit too quick to the draw to say he's going to like another company or even UFC. He still has fines. He's still got fined by USADA that he hasn't paid at UFC yet. So
yeah, I don't think at this point at this age of his career he really wants to be punched in the head for real. Like I don't think, considering his family, the reason why he resigned was because he was like, listen, I'm not going back to UFC. Like, it's with everything with concussions and all this other stuff like that. Like, yeah, it's great, but at the end of the day, it's like I got to make sure to be able to be in the best shape to take care of my family, and getting kicked in the head for real is not part of that plan. So, no, I'm pretty sure he's never going to AEW. I mean, I don't want to say never, but I would say I'd say never when it comes to WWE stuff, like people coming back. I would definitely say never if it's AEW. Like, when you even think about, and I hate to be crossing into War Report territory here, but like, think about the amount of people he would leapfrog and the people that they're trying to develop on that show. Oh, he would be beating up Jon Moxley on Saturday. Like, he's
exactly
just, like, and never work. MJF would be a street memory. Like, it would.
No one would beat him.
Yeah,
no one would beat him. He's not taking the One Wing Angel. He's not taking any of the Young Bucks shit. He's not doing it, bro. Like, I think this is one of the great. Like, I think he would definitely be an asset. Of course, he's an asset. He's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. But I think that in terms of like where would he go next, that just doesn't seem like a viable destination for him, especially with what they're trying to build. I don't think it would bring them eyes, but I think it would be in the sense of like he would be squashing their whole roster. Let's be clear here.
Yeah,
people would hate it.
It just would. It wouldn't be a good fit for their roster. I don't think so. At least it would be a great from like attraction, and I think AEW still needs that major attraction. And it's similar to Hulk Hogan coming to WCW. I don't think Jon Moxley is it. I think he is one part of it, but I don't think he is it. But they definitely need that sort of main attraction, and they haven't got it yet. So I don't know. If I was Tony Khan, I'd be like, listen, you want a stake in the Jaguars? You want part of the field? Do you want anything else? But I really doubt at this point we're going to get it. Yeah.
Next up on the slate, Mauro Ranallo and WWE parted ways this week after an amicable split between the two. Mauro put out a statement online saying, this was a completely amicable split. I had to, I wanted to spend time to take care of my mother, who I didn't know he was taking care of, and also my own mental health. I wish WWE the best in all of their endeavors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Look at that. You better take that power, white man, and say, listen, I wish y'all the best in y'all endeavors. That's what that's how you got to do it. That's how you got to do it.
Very, very storied WWE career for Mauro. Of course, he started out on SmackDown. We were all very excited about that. Mauro was the absolute best at what he did. He came from, of course, the boxing world, and he did some New Japan commentating for a minute. Came to SmackDown. Then we had that weird Bullygate stuff with JBL, which turned out to be completely false. And then, have people apologized to JBL for that yet?
No, but it's easy not to apologize to JBL. Look at him.
Okay. And then he went to NXT. His NXT run, I have to admit, for the first year or so, definitely one of the great commentary roles of all time. I mean, you go even to the ladder match. I think the calls during the ladder match are one of my favorite calls from any announcer ever. Like, it's JR level to me. And then it just kind of like petered off. I think Mauro, I won't want to say he caught on to his own hype, but I think he caught on to trying to top that every single time out, and I think that really kind of stunted his growth on the NXT roster as an announcer. But I have to say, like, he's a great catch. But once again, like, when it comes to your mental health, definitely put yourself first, and also put your family first as well.
It's crazy because I love what Mauro provided over the last number of years, and I do think that he was a great addition to the roster, but I never saw him as like a lifer in WWE. I always kind of saw this transition eventually happening because there's just so much things that are going on with Mauro, and then there's so much things that just outside of the WWE, I believe he loves to explore. There are people you can clearly see who are the lifers or attempted lifers. You can clearly see because they're essentially like they butted off of Michael Cole, like the Tom Phillips or the Vic Josephs or all these other people. Like you can clearly kind of see. Well, I don't want to say Vic Joseph because I actually don't think Vic Joseph is a lifer as well because he's done quite a bit outside of WWE as well. But you can clearly see the direction of where WWE is going with their announce kind of roster and people like that. I never really figured Mauro into plans for long term, but I'll be honest, I was excited to hear the news that my man Wade Barrett was about to get, they about to back up the a little bit of the truck, not the full truck, but
No, they're backing up a Prius for him, not the Bricks truck. They're backing up a Prius for Wade Barrett to be the long-term NXT announcer. But you know what's crazy about you saying that you were excited about that? Wade Barrett signing pretty much kind of means Nigel ain't coming back.
No, Nigel's over in UK. Wait, first of all, have you seen the new UK set?
Yeah, it looks amazing.
It looks, I don't know what dump they were, recording out of before, but this blows it out the water and they need to stay wherever the hell they're at. Because
listen, man, we're 18 days away from NXT UK coming back. I am going to watch. I'm going to see what's up. I haven't seen these performers in such a long time.
They've just got longer mustaches and longer beards and different and similar haircuts.
They're paler. They got more pale. But again, like there is some really great talent there. I really thought that NXT UK was picking up steam right before COVID hit. They had that really good takeover. Kaylee Ray was on top. I mean, they even put her in the War Games match. You had Dragunov's storyline that was going crazy. Walter and Finn was about to happen. There was just so much stuff that was leading in a positive direction for them. Mm-hmm. Now that they're back with a little bit less sex pests, then we should be on the roll there. So I can't wait to see what they provide in the next coming weeks.
Yeah, I can agree.
Next up, let's get through Payback. It was on Sunday.
Yeah, WWE Payback. What? Shoot, man.
One of the best 2-hour and 30-minute pay-per-views I've ever seen in my life.
I don't think... All right, so here's my thoughts on Payback. It wasn't a like, oh my God, groundbreaking. Oh, this was amazing. It was just really good from top to bottom. And that's not like underselling it, because I don't want to think I'm underselling it, because to get a pay-per-view where every match doesn't disappoint, like... Every match is good in its own particular way is incredible. But, man, like you said, just a great 2.5 hours. It was much better than watching, like, in my opinion, watching Monday Night Raw. Like,
yeah, it's really amazing that they not only created 2 new stars on that show in Keith Lee and Shayna Baszler, because I'm sorry, like, that was her star-making performance. Actually, no, F that. You also had Dominic, 3. Because Dominic really showed his ass. I think you had 3 stars that were made that night. But you also have like a really, really solid Matt Riddle, Baron Corbin match that I think no one expected to be as hard hitting and really just like it was a slugfest. That match was really fucking great.
Listen, I think everyone from top to bottom, I can't say there's a bad match on the show. I can't say there was even, you go through the matches, you talk about that Shayna Baszler moment. That was just incredible. I mean, and the match itself was nothing but because Bayley and Sasha Banks, they're just amazing workers. They're just amazing for their time. But to have that match with Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, I kind of hope we get a rematch as much as like we get a lot of rematches for a lot of things. I mean, we've seen Dominic versus Seth Rollins for like 4 times in the past like 8 days. But it was just so good. And the Matt Riddle Baron Corbin match as well. I mean, I think that's another one that people really kind of, I don't want to say slept on, but it's just like, you've seen Baron Corbin, you've seen them all. And I think Matt Riddle brought a different kind of aggression out of King Corbin because he kind of had to match it with the aggression that Matt Riddle was bringing, especially after that
They
tweet.
clicked.
Oh my
They
God.
clicked. They clicked really well, and I think that, I mean, of course, the tweet talking about Baron Corbin saying that Matt Riddle failed as a husband. So it looks as though it seems as though we're going there. Meelz.
He just said failed
we're
at
be
home.
going
He
there.
didn't. I don't think he said failed at a husband. He said failed at
Same
home.
same shit. You already know what he meant. You know what he meant.
All right.
We know where he's going with that, and I think it's a very, very interesting road to take. I don't know how you circumvent or clear the accusations that went against Matt Riddle. Of course, we talked about this at length about a month or so ago, back in the archives. Matt Riddle coming out and saying, "Hey, I had an extramarital affair with this woman. These things happen." Of course, Candy Cartwright coming out and saying, he assaulted me during our relationship. It was extramarital. It's messy, right? I think we both can agree that it's messy as hell. But I think going here with the reality-based storyline, which SmackDown is known to do for some strange reason, look at Jeff Hardy, is a very slippery slope. And I'm wondering how they're going to navigate this. But I mean, we'll see in the coming weeks. But it seems to be that they're poising Matt Riddle to have some sort of storyline that takes him out of the bro story and the bro personality and have him be a little bit more of a serious character.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm like. I kind of like the bro thing. I don't think he's gonna abandon it, but I think they're gonna show the two sides. Like it's right.
Like, okay, you're more than just the flip flops, right?
Okay. All right. I can see that. I mean, there was another star making moment. Keith Lee versus Randy Orton. I think
no one thought. Here's the thing: we pegged Keith to win, but we said we wouldn't be mad. But I still don't think me or you expected him to win.
Did I expect him to beat Randy Orton in 6 minutes and 40 seconds? No.
No, not at all.
It was a great sort of contest. It kind of proved. I mean, it continued to prove what we've been actually saying, that like Keith Lee is kind of built for the main roster, like built for the WWE. I think he's just got this great timing and he's got this great presence, and putting him in the ring and having him in these opportunities, even, you're going to see on Monday Night Raw when we talk about it, having him these opportunities continues to peg him as sort of a star. And you can talk about all the outfits and attire and the music and all the other stuff. None of that stuff is going to matter in 3 months. I promise you. None of that stuff is going to matter when, as my prediction has been, when he wins the Royal Rumble in January. None of that's going to matter. Because you're going to be seeing really a birth and a coming of a new star that WWE has kind of sorely needed for a very, very long time.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about with Alvarez before we take a quick break. Alvarez said that the win that Keith Lee had against Orton didn't do much for him. It didn't do much for Keith Lee on the main roster. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
That's
bro.
terrible.
Fuck you.
That's terrible.
You like your white lily ass. Fuck you, bro. That's big. That's a big moment that none of us thought was gonna happen.
And quite honestly, it's something that should happen, I think, a lot more often, and especially I give it off to Randy to actually like put him over in the way that he put him over. Randy Orton
continued to do so, and continued to put him over even on Raw.
Yeah. First of all, launching that Randy Orton up in the air. I don't think Randy Orton has ever in his life have been tossed up like that since he was probably like 2 years old. So just
made him look like $1 million. And listen, man, I'm sorry, Meelz. I'm reading between the fucking lines of that statement that he said on Observer Radio. Shout out to Meelz who said what for posting that up this morning. It doesn't do anything for you. Well, it did a lot to young black kids who saw that on screen. Or black wrestling fans that are so sorely wanting representation in a positive way that, again, we're always kind of one step forward, one step back. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see the amount of even African Americans on the show, the amount of African Americans on Raw and SmackDown that get opportunities, on AEW that get opportunities. These types of wins and positions mean something for us. You might not fuck with it because you don't like the show, but think about your listeners and the people. Well, I'm sorry, your listeners are all white. You're right. So you know what? I'm done. That was just a 150-week rant.
Listen, Keith Lee is out of here. I'm just letting you guys know. So if you guys are doubting him now, saying these wins don't matter, trust me, it's going to happen for a long time, and it's going to keep happening for quite some time. So just, make sure you stay tuned, quite honestly. Let's roll into, first of all, just everything. Like we said before, everything on this card has been stellar. We got a new United States champion with Bobby Lashley. We can talk about that on Monday Night Raw, but we probably thought it was the best decision. We thought it was the best decision going into it. So, hey, let's talk about the main event. Triple threat match, no holds barred, Universal Championship. But before we talk about the main event, we have to roll back to SmackDown.
Yes. So how about we take a quick break?
Okay.
Then we talk about the Payback main event, SmackDown, and then go into Raw. How about that?
All right. That sounds good.
All right. So on the A Show, we'll be right back with all those reviews and much, much more in just a couple seconds. Bear with us, y'all. Be right back.
A Show family, come here real quick. Just go ahead and put your hand on top of your headphones. Just come a little bit closer. Just come a little bit closer. Listen to this. Do you secretly want James Harden and the Houston Rockets to lose as much as I know that Jeff does, but secretly does not want to tell me for the sake of the show? Listen, I think that you should make sure that you now have a new friend, not only in Jeff, but in the other half of the greatest basketball duo known to man. Tune into the Elite Media Group channel to hear myself and Jeff every single Tuesday with RSPN. And if that's not enough basketball for you, make sure that you're also tuned in to Play for Keeps, which has a very detailed conversation on the NBA playoffs, as well as everything else to fill your NBA cravings with Cam and Drew. Both sides of the conversation, both sides of the game, all on the Elite Media Group Network. In the meantime, let's get you back into some more A Show, J5 and Meelz.
And we're back on the 150th, I almost said 45th, 150th episode of the A Show. I am Justin, of course, here with Meelz 5 weeks later. We, of course, are talking about last weekend's Payback show. And we're also talking about, the biggest news of the weekend. This literally hit days before Payback, and we had to wait to see what happened.
Yeah, it was weird. All right, so let's paint the picture for this. SmackDown, which got its highest rating since April because Thunderdome, and then also everything that's been leading out from SummerSlam. The post SummerSlam sort of impact, I think, was massive. I think WWE knew that they had something with Roman Reigns returning, especially full time to the ring. It was in this capacity that was very exciting. They knew they had something with it. They legitimately made you wait until the very last moment of SmackDown. You watched the entire show to figure out what was going on with Roman Reigns. I think it was a great SmackDown. We'll talk a little bit about like some extra stuff that happened, but the idea was, okay, we're not doing the typical contract signing. Thank God, because we know how these end. So we're going to have Adam Pearce, who is now Vince McMahon's new right-hand man, which I am all for, go around to all three competitors in this match and get signatures. He manages to go into the Firefly Funhouse. He talks to Bray Wyatt. He gets the signature there. He manages to go to Braun with a weird haircut. He gets a signature there. And then we go to the big dog Roman Reigns, and it's like, I'm not sure if I'm feeling this contract. I'm not sure if I like everything that's going on here. I don't know about this. But what I do know is that if I get into this match, I will be the Universal Champion. And that is not a prediction. That is a spoiler. And he looks over. We pan to the left. And there's old Paul E. Dangerously sitting on him on the couch right next to Roman Reigns. But this is before the Brock Lesnar news even hits. So we're like, what the fuck is going on here? Or is this the new, what even? What were your first thoughts when you heard and or seen this?
Oh, man. I get SmackDown a little bit later, unfortunately. So, it had been intimated to before I saw it. I saw the picture. I think, of course, I was on Instagram, and WWE doesn't give a shit about your time zone. So I saw the picture of it. I saw the picture of it before I actually saw the show. So I was waiting, and I think Cyrus even said you should still watch it because how they introduce it was great. And let me tell you, I thought it was masterful last week how they introduced Roman. I thought it was also masterful this week how they introduced Paul. I don't know if you noticed, but you see Adam Pearce look over at Paul, him off camera at the end. So the way that Paul is actually brought into frame is crazy. And I wish we had a crowd for this, right? Because this is a moment that they would always remember forever. And I think that, him using the Heyman slang and then Heyman using the believe that, such a great twist of the character that leaves you asking questions. We're still asking questions to this day. Even at Payback, which had a pretty solid main event between Braun and The Fiend, before Roman actually signed the contract. That was the overarching story of the show, right? Was that Roman still hadn't signed. Paul said he's going to be there, don't worry, but we're going to wait to sign this contract. So you get 10 minutes of Braun and Bray beating the hell out of each other before Roman comes out, signs the paper with Heyman, throws the pin, and comes in with a chair, spears the Fiend. Fiend kicks out, of course, because he's the Fiend. Kicks the Fiend in the nuts. Spears Braun. 1, 2, 3 for the win. Everybody erupts. I mean, I really want to ask you, Meelz. We never saw this with John Cena. He never flipped ever. No one ever believed that Roman would ever flip because they looked at it as a John Cena, we're going to keep him face no matter what. How do you feel about this course correction with Roman in that we're going to completely say, you know what, he's not the top face anymore. We don't need that John Cena top face. We have that in a Drew. We have that in a Kevin Owens. We have that in a Keith Lee. We're going to let Roman do this. How do you feel about that change of heart here? Because I think that's a big thing that no one's really talking about.
So I don't know if it's truly, I think it's a change of character for Roman Reigns, more so than a change of allegiance. And I'll say this because I feel like they've seen kind of the route that it's going to go. This is an opportunity where you have the top guy off for quite a considerable amount of time. You actually have the opportunity to do something. And as opposed to just coming back, doing the same thing, et cetera, et cetera. You have an opportunity. There's no crowds. There's no people to kind of like shit on your product or take a hold of the show or kind of course correct anything like that. You have the real true opportunity to be a creative. This is something that WWE has never done before because they have never decided, okay, we're going to take our top guy and we're going to transform him into a heel. I mean, they've done it unsuccessfully, but we're going to take our top guy, transform him into a heel. And or tweener, I don't know at this point.
He's a heel. I mean,
and
they made it so clear. Like people were literally still asking if he was a heel or not the next day, and I'm like, he kicked the Fiend in the nuts.
He's such a. But here's the thing: it's such like a rent. I think this is more so of a character shift for Roman Reigns, and I think because we're going to get this with a lot more, attitude. We're going to get this with a lot more. Him speaking kind of like how he actually is. And I think it's going to add a lot more development to the arc of Roman Reigns. For the last 5 years, we've been talking about the same Roman Reigns. And like, here we go with the same character arc. Even last week, we were like joking about like, does he do it at Mania again? Like, does he come up and, fight whoever at Mania again? And it's like, I can't handle that. And I think a lot of people realize that we just can't handle it. We have to do something else. And I think this is an era where WWE talent has a lot more things to say. We are in an era where Paul Heyman is still under contract, but Brock Lesnar is not. So we have things to do with this man that we are paying so heavily. Let's incorporate into the show. And it's great. It makes SmackDown, which a show which suffered by like things like non-must-see things, especially with a lot of its top stars out and going through a lot of the motions over the last number of months, it makes it a must-see show, at least for this one particular character. That is a guy. That is a guy that you create. When you have a show and you're like, okay, we need to watch this to see what he is going to do next. That is when you have made a guy. And that's what Roman Reigns is at this point. He's a made man.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get that heel thing off. I think that I'm pretty sure that this was back and forth for a while whether they would do this turn. But I got to think that Roman probably was like, yo, I'm not coming back unless I get to do this shit. You know what I'm saying? So like, I would imagine that he took the power in his own hands and said, this is how I got to come back. I got new teeth. I got a new attitude. And again, we'll be waiting. We will be waiting to see on Friday's SmackDown, you know, how they will follow this up. I mean, from what they've done this past week, they knocked it out the park. I think they fully, you know, actualized the fact that this guy is not the same guy anymore. He don't even take his shirt off no more. He just wears merch and beats people up now. He don't even take the shirt off. So I think that like at the end of the day, like this did a couple of things, and I think people were kind of confused about this. This put Braun out of the title picture. He's lost twice. He's been pinned twice. Actually, like he's lost. He's done. He's gone. He's still a heel. But I also think this puts Fiend in the position, even though this weird Alexa Bliss thing is happening, I don't know what that is, where he was screwed out of the title essentially by Roman, and that puts the onus on it's going to be Roman versus the Fiend. However, like I don't know how this is going to work, Meelz, because Roman's character isn't going to play that fairy tale children's show bullshit. That doesn't seem like it meshes to me.
I think I think transforming the Fiend Bray Wyatt into a face and having that be I think you can play with it a little bit, especially with the interruptions and the whole like sort of figuring out. I think the Fiend Bray Wyatt as a face, we've talked about it for quite some time, is the direction that you want to go, especially when you have someone with Paul Heyman in his corner, where it's like, all right, does Roman have to protect Braun? Does Roman have to protect Paul and all this other stuff? But you want to see the Fiend get his hands on Paul, and maybe he transforms him or transports him into the Firefly Funhouse. Like, there's so many different things. The allegiances have completely changed on Friday Night SmackDown, which is exactly what that show needed. And you open up a lot of opportunities and you open up a lot of doors. And quite honestly, Roman Reigns, bad guy, this is likely going to be his longest reign as a Universal Champion ever. I promise you. Yeah. I promise you. It just is. That's how kind of heels in the fall work.
Let's uncurse this belt. How about that? Let's uncurse this belt. This belt is fucking cursed. Let's put it on Roman and give him a long reign. We already have a bunch of faces that he could go against right now. You've got Riddle. You've got Daniel Bryan when he comes back.
Well, first of all, Survivor Series. Can you imagine Survivor Series?
Oh my God! What if we get? Let's be clear. Okay. Pie in the sky booking here. Keith Lee versus Roman Reigns could be something that happens at Survivor Series.
I'm looking at Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre right now, and I do think Keith Lee and Roman Reigns could happen. But when you look at the space that Roman Reigns, we've seen it before, but we've never seen them in the spaces that they're in currently right now. It's always been the opposite way around, which is honestly the easiest thing. But when you look at it in the space now, you have Drew McIntyre, who was previously beaten by Roman Reigns at WrestleMania last year. You have Roman Reigns completely in a new space, now represented by Paul Heyman. Same Paul Heyman who represented the guy that Drew McIntyre beat a couple of months ago. So you have this entire kind of like new sort of look on it that like could make Survivor Series very, 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 very interesting. And I'm looking way too far ahead now.
No, you're not, because like if you look at the calendar immediately coming up, you've got Clash of Champions. It's looking like, I'm just gonna guess, it's looking like the Fiend again. You've got no pay-per-view. You've got no pay-per-views in October. So nothing in October. November 1st is Hell in a Cell. I would blow the Fiend stuff off there. And which is going to be funny because that is the event where everyone like kind of turned the page on the Fiend. It's Hell in a Cell. So doing that again is kind of interesting. But you got Hell in a Cell the first. Then you got Survivor Series. I think Roman's pretty set. I think the only thing we don't know yet would be his interim storyline before Mania. I mean, all things said, who would be your top four going into Mania for Roman?
Keith Lee.
In Mania?
For Mania, yes. Keith Lee for Mania. I promise you. It's going to work.
He's going to go to SmackDown.
Yeah, I won't say he's going to go to SmackDown, but he will challenge for the Universal Championship. Keith Lee. I'm also saying, I don't want to say AJ, because I do think AJ, as good as he is, I do think they're going to end up like, okay, this is a Royal Rumble. This is like a, leading into WrestleMania type feud. This is kind of something that we do. Same with Daniel Bryan. I don't know if there's a 4 for Mania. Goldberg?
Yes. That's one of my choices.
Goldberg. If Brock signs again, there's Brock. You change allegiances. It's awkward now. It's different. Brock Lesnar shows up at Royal Rumble randomly out of nowhere, decides to win it, and it's like, what the hell is going on here? Like, Paul, what are you doing? That's a program. That's a story as well. That's all I got. It's only big guys. No Otises. No,
Well, how's they going to handle? Well, before we get to that, I'll get to mine first. I think his top 4, should he stay on SmackDown, which I think they desperately need Roman on SmackDown. I don't think he's moving. I think you have Riddle. Obviously, you have Big E. But I really think that, I think Jeff on Twitter, Red Sox, said that he thinks Big E is going to go against Miz. And I think that actually does make a lot of sense. But I'd still put Big E in there. I'd say Goldberg and Brock. I think Brock comes back and he's like, what the hell has happened since I've been gone? And then you turn Brock into a mega face. It's the only thing Brock hasn't done in his since his return has become like a baby face. So that would be a cool switcheroo for Mania. But Otis, what's up? What's going on?
I mean, get him. Stay where you're at, bro.
What are you gonna do?
You beat up Otis. That's what you do. You say, Otis, let's get the. I want him on Friday to be like, Otis, let's get this out of the way. Let's just do it now. I need you to do this now, because. And Otis is dumb enough to do it right now. So it just is. It'll just work. But like, Otis, let's get this out of the way. I'm not trying to have you hiding behind corners. You can't fit behind the damn pole. I don't know what you hiding for. So I don't know what let's get this out of the way. Let's have this championship match on SmackDown. Let's do this right now. That's how I do it. But I hate Otis, so results
Christ.
may vary.
Who would you have him drop? Who would you have him drop the briefcase to, or would you just do something different?
The briefcase would have to evaporate, which sucks, but that's what happens when you put on Otis. Should have put on someone else.
Well, I think, of course, hindsight being 2020, they probably didn't think Roman was coming back until next year. And I think now, I'm going to wonder what happens on SmackDown with Otis. They just now started showing him with the briefcase again, so who knows? But I really enjoyed this Roman fantasy booking. I think of anything that's happened since the Thunderdome, this is definitely the most compelling thing that has happened in WWE for the whole year. Even, including like, I think it would have been the Sasha Bailey thing if they had ended it a little earlier.
Yeah, no, I agree. Suddenly things feel a lot more important again.
Absolutely. Speaking of important, Raw was a pretty important episode, I have to say. A lot of stuff.
Before we get into Raw, there's a little element on SmackDown as well, because Roman Reigns wasn't the only return this week. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Sami Zayn is back, and it shakes up the Intercontinental title scene. How do you feel? First of all, how do you feel about his general return to the show? And do you feel like this makes the Intercontinental title scene more interesting?
This was the return I was not spoiled on, so I was legitimately surprised.
Oh damn! Everyone kind of like buried the Sami Zayn return thing.
Yeah, this is what I was not privy to before I watched the show. I was pleasantly surprised. I think, of course,
they buried it kind of too, because Sami Zayn kicks Jeff Hardy in the face and then exits out of the scene, and then Jeff Hardy gets back up, and then they play like Jeff Hardy's music again.
Yeah, I think the story is that Sami doesn't have his team with him anymore. I think Nakamura and Cesaro is like, you fucked off for 4 months, we're not with you no more. And I think even there's even teasing a breakup between Cesaro and Nakamura, strangely. I'm like, everyone's breaking up, and we'll talk about that more on Raw, but I think Sami's storyline here is to finally get the undisputed Intercontinental Champion match going. I think that's the next step here. And then, I mean, I don't hate the Jeff Hardy Sami thing, but I don't see a purpose for AJ versus Sami at this point. We've seen it a lot in 2018, so we don't need to see it anymore. But I think Sami, of course, shakes up the mid-card. Again, I love Sami in matches. I think he's definitely a great guy on the mic and in the ring. I would love to see him keep the Intercontinental title, though. I'm just going to be selfish, but I know they're going to keep it on Jeff, so I don't know.
No, I think actually they're going to keep it on Zayn. I think this was the shock, kind of like, oh, Jeff Hardy, oh, he wins the Intercontinental Championship, and then they keep it on Zayn. I think that's the smarter idea. I think there's a lot more dance partners with Sami Zayn. I think Jeff Hardy just doesn't seem. It was so clearly. It's never been more clear than in the Nakamura match on Friday that Jeff Hardy is like 3/4 slower than he has ever been before. Like it was just so evident because I don't know. And then like Nakamura never really got going either because he kind of like needs the other person in the match to kind of like get going, or else he just kind of, you know, he kind of floats. He kind of hits the numbers. He kind of does what he does. So it was like that match never got going, and I just felt bad for, you know, Jeff Hardy like watching. I was like, damn, he sucks. Like this sucks. So it was a harrowing realization that Jeff Hardy might not be it anymore. But to put him on, just put on Sami Zayn. Why not? I mean, at this point,
I'm cool with it. I mean, I enjoyed it.
Quick thing also on SmackDown before we head into Raw, for real. What did you think of the Alexa Bliss thing? We did talk about the Alexa Bliss thing. It was weird, but what did you think of it?
It's funny that everyone thought it was Liv and it ended up being Alexa anyway.
That's so. They put too much stock in Liv. They just put too much stock in Liv.
Yeah, it ended up not being her anyway. I wait and see. There's not much I can tell you on that. I think that the Fiend has definitely changed her in a way, but I don't know which way. Usually, the faces turn heel and the heels turn face when they mess with the Fiend. So I would imagine Fiend's going one way.
You think she was messing with the Fiend in a different way? You know what I'm saying? All right.
Whoa, brother! Of course, the daily dose of Meelz problematic.
No, man, she's dating Ryan Cabrera, who has one of my favorite songs of all time, by the way.
He might have changed her in a way.
Listen,
maybe.
I'm blaming Miz for that. Miz is very, him and Ryan Cabrera are best friends. I'm pretty sure he set them up. So you know what?
I didn't know that.
Listen, I know all the Miz tidbits.
Wait a minute, how did this come around to Miz? No, we're going to Raw. What the hell? How did this come back around to Miz? What the hell? That's what you were waiting for. You're sick, bro.
Let's go to Raw.
Raw was a very important show that was capped off, or really just kind of bookended by 3 matches that would determine the number 1 contender for the WWE title. I think we all on the outset knew what it was going to be at the end, but it ended up being a 3-way match between Keith Lee, who had a really good match against Ziggler in the top of the show, versus Seth Rollins, who had a match with Dominic Mysterio, which I thought was pretty cool as well, and Randy Orton, who was...
Listen, it's not me this time. I'm so happy that the police sirens are not me this time.
who was helped out by Aleister Black in a really cool storyline moment. Again, really storyline based, but a really cool triple threat match to end the show. Of course, Keith Lee looking strong in the end, but not pinned. It was instead Seth Rollins, who sold the hell out of the Spirit Bomb. These guys have been giving Keith Lee a lot on his finisher, and it makes it look like the coolest move on the show, really.
Listen, if there's a person on this roster who should be doing a Spirit Bomb in that sort of fashion, it's this man Keith Lee. Like, he just brings it. They sell it. He's a massive guy. It just works. I'm all for it. I would like to say, I mean, I thought Raw was okay. I mean, they did the best. This is kind of like the standard, like, post SummerSlam, let's start building for another thing kind of ordeal. So I wasn't completely mad at it. I did like the Dominic and Seth Rollins match a lot, and the interesting developments with Seth Rollins, but now that he is like angry at his disciple, wonder how that's going to go, because I can't imagine a major Murphy split, honestly.
I can't either, unless because of the draft, we are about to get a breakup between Seth and Murphy. That's the only thing I can think of.
If Murphy goes to SmackDown, he's cooked. And if he leaves Seth, he's cooked. So they better be drafted together because he's cooked either way. He will be on main event with wrestling Mustafa Ali for the umpteenth time. Like,
he is smoked. I will agree with that. I mean, he will be jobbing to Riddle or Braun Strowman in no time.
The thing is like, as good as it is, we've had all this character development with Seth Rollins, but Buddy Murphy has not received the same sort of blessing with this new gimmick as well. So we'll see how it goes. But I did think the main event was awesome. I popped major for the RKO into the rolling dive into a pin.
Oh my god. Randy, listen, if you would have told me at the end of last year that my top wrestlers, top 10, Randy Orton would be in this list and Keith Lee would be in this list, I would have laughed at you in the face. Like, these are, I mean, essentially the triple threat was three of the guys that I think are going to end up in a lot of people's top 15, top 10 this year. And I thought they did an amazing job for what the time that they were given in the main event. But again, like, I think Raw, it's funny that, like, and I always say this, and I don't know if I'm going to jinx the writing team or anyone there, like, these shows are never in sync as far as being hot shows and having things going on. This is a rare time where Raw and SmackDown are in sync with, like, really cool energy, whether it be returners or completely new characters on the show. But both shows are benefiting from a Keith Lee, from a Shayna Baszler finally getting going, and from a Roman Reigns return and a Sami Zayn return. Like, they're really rolling because of that.
Yeah, they're trying a lot of new fresh things. I'll give them that. The Roman Reigns thing is definitely fresh. The Bray Wyatt thing is fresh. Raw Underground is fresh. Kind of what they've been doing, you know, with the Keith Lee introduction, that's incredibly fresh. They've been trying new things, and it's not like... And the thing is, I don't want to bury Paul Heyman, because Paul Heyman was trying new things as well. It's just that it was taking too long. And and I think now that we have these kind of major moments and everything that's happening, and they're making sure to compound all these fresh things with, like, major moments, we're getting a lot more exciting content on Monday Night Raw. I mean, you know, one thing I'm not excited about is the fact that the Street Profits and Andrade and Angel can't seem to fucking leave each other alone. I told you they wouldn't. I told you it was not going to end. I knew it wasn't going to end. Let's talk about something. Let's talk about the end of that match. So Retribution shows up. Angel Garza says, I'm grabbing my honey, and we are out of here. No. I'm grabbing my white woman. It was a moment where the Street Profits and Andrade were left in the ring, and they decided they were going to fight. And I also love the whole Zelina, like, all right, fuck it. We just going to have to scrap. I'm from, New York. This is how we get down. We've never talked about anything on this show. Maybe apropos to save it for the 150. I don't know. But I have a question for you. Who is this white woman? Who is this white woman that's been on the show for like 8 weeks? Who I thought this was like a special guest cameo, and she is fully on payroll at this point. Like, she's been seen on more shows than Mustafa Ali has been since he's returned. She's been. Listen, man. I mean, I got my own thoughts on Ali. I'm not gonna do it on the 150, but she's on The Bachelorette. She, I guess, is the star power here. She's, I think, The Bachelorette. I don't know what season she's on. I did read a couple things about her. I don't know what the end storyline is going to be here, because she's been seen with Angel and Ivar, and she's just been kind of like back and forth. But again, like, leave it to a white woman to ruin many relationships and friendships. This is what's happening here. Just be on the show. I'm like, why is she still here? No offense, but why is she still? If this is a Viacom thing, like, there are other Viacom personalities that could be on the show. Like, I'm still confused of why she's still here. But you know what? I don't know if they think people love her. Maybe they do. Maybe this is like a Ryan Shamrock type of deal. Remember Ryan Shamrock? Yeah. Just kind of like a cast off. I don't want to say she's going to end up like Ryan Shamrock, but just someone that's just been, cast off and just a featured player on the show. I don't know. I can't. Who is this white woman? Speaking of white women, which I don't normally say on the show, but I'll save it for episode 150. We got an interesting tag team match that happened on Raw. How weird was the team must never face each other, or team must break up at the end of this match between the Iconics and the newly reformed Riot Squad? Let me tell you, telegraphed from the moment that they put the Chiron on the screen in the beginning of the show. That was like, oh my God, are they going to do this? Are they really going to do this? There's been rumors that Vince McMahon is extremely high on Peyton Royce. What he sees, what does he not see in Billie Kay is my question. What does he not see in Billie? Maybe she's too funny. She's the funnier of the two. She's way funny. I don't think she sends me to Chuckletown. I don't think either are
particularly great in the ring. I thought the match they had on Sunday was like the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't even know why.
Oh, it was so bad. It was bad.
Weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I chose to ignore it on the show because the rest of the show was just so good. I'm just not going to acknowledge a match.
But to break these two up, and if you are high on Peyton, that means Billy is more than likely SmackDown bound at this point, and she's done. They're gonna. Well, they're not leaving the building, but they're gonna be a different show.
I mean, Billy might leave the building. Goddamn.
I just don't get the thought behind it. What character are you gonna make Peyton Royce? Is she gonna wear a leather jacket now? Like what's gonna be her new thing?
They will be back together by the end of 2021. I promise you.
I just don't see how you'd. I don't see how you'd see. And listen, man, I'm not like the highest on Liv either, but I don't see how you would slot Peyton over Liv. I think Liv is a lot more advanced than Peyton is. It's weird.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that because I do think Peyton is much more advanced than Liv. It's just that Peyton is still none of them wow me in the ring, but I think to be giving this role to Peyton, it's setting her up for a lot, which to me is going to end up setting her up for a lot of failure. She has been, there's a lot less expectations on Billie Kay, which is easy for her to blow it out the friggin' moon. It's kind of like the Miz and Morrison thing, right? Like Morrison was always the Shawn Michaels of the group. Oh, he's the Shawn Michaels. He's going to be. And then, 5 years later, Morrison is wrestling in Aztec temples and like all types of other shit. And the Miz is former WWE champion.
I'll raise you that Iconics reunion, and I'll say that Peyton will be in a tag team with Natalya by 2021.
Peyton might be in the what was it? The Deadly Divas tournament over in AEW. Deadly tag tournament over. She might be by 2021. It could be the case.
I don't know. It's weird. It's definitely a weird decision by them, but we'll
Billie
see.
Kay, if that's the case, Billie Kay will end up in a new tag team. I promise you.
You know what would be funny if they did a funny thing where they were trying to reform the team, but trying to do it under like different names, or like maybe Billy wore a mask and that they like Adam Pearce like takes the mask off and he's just like, Billy, go back to the back. You're not a team anymore. That would be funny. Yeah. That would be really funny.
This was just so boggling to me, a breaking of the Iconics, but hey.
And we've spent way too much time talking about this, by the way. So
I mean, to be fair, this will be the last time we talk about the Iconics for quite some time. So what, are we still? There we go.
When we finally meet, will we still do the Iconics thing, or were we going to do something different?
No, we won't do that. I'm over it now.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll come up with a new tag team taunt to do when we see each other for the first time. Anything else on Raw? We had a
Raw Underground. Titus O'Neil is beating up little white boys.
Can we talk about the Hurt Business beating up Cedric, Apollo, and Ricochet every week, effectively destroying any type of belief that I have in these guys to be tough, cool, or a threat in any way?
It's definitely why are they still doing this thing? It's definitely a split down the middle. These are like the new kids on the block, but they're also like into like comic books and anime, and we're the tough old gruff black dudes who.
Is it a rib? Is it a rib on millennials or Gen Z?
It might be. It might be. You know what? Because all these guys are from 2008, and they're whooping these guys from 2020, and I'm still confused on why it's happening.
You had Apollo get hoed on Backlash or Payback. You had Ricochet and Cedric. Oh, Ricochet appeared out of nowhere on Raw. I was like, I didn't even think he was going to be on the show. They go to Raw Underground, which, again, one thing positive I will say about Raw Underground is that it's now mixing in storylines. So, like, if you have a problem with somebody, just go fight with no ref or a relaxed rule with relaxed rules. Let's like actually go give him the hands for real. Like, it's almost like that shit out there is fake. This shit out here is fake real. It's almost real.
Shout out to Marina Shafir, just in a full dress, just tossing chicks.
She looked like she was dressed up for, like she was like a One Piece character. Like, I was like, what are you wearing? What is this?
That was awesome. I love that.
But I again, like, shout out to Jessamine and Marina. They finally found something for them to do that didn't involve them running ropes So shout out to that. Like, keep them on Raw Underground, bro. Like, I never thought that they like worked or meshed as anything but like heaters for Shayna. But finding something for them to do is just like amazing. And I think that, you know, have them defend the tag titles in Raw Underground with Shayna and Nia. Yeah. That'd be hard. Like, yeah. Well, actually, no, that wouldn't make sense because they're friends. So no, never mind. That was stupid. I just thought it'd be cool. Speaking of Shayna and Nia, and Asuka and Mickie James and Lana and Natty,
women.
Women. A lot of women on the show. Asuka returned. Shout out to Asuka for getting a break. We're getting a week off.
Get a nice little week off. Get a pay-per-view off. There's another pay-per-view next week. Asuka, we don't need you. You know, we got the other titles on the line.
So it looks as though we're going into either a triple threat.
Sasha Banks and Bayley are now back exclusively on SmackDown.
We're blessed. We're blessed.
Yes, there we go. It's an exclusive SmackDown program now. You know,
think about how much breathing room the women on SmackDown have now that Sasha and Bayley aren't beating all of them every week.
Listen, think about the breathing room that they have on Raw now. That, you know, the rest of the Raw roster isn't being shown up every week. I mean, we got our War Raiders match.
Oh my God, you're right, we did. Shout out to Tim, who said that Cedric would rather team up with white people to take on brothers. Like, what a weird tag team. And then Cedric and then Ricochet and Apollo ended up appearing anyway. So I was like, where were they in the first half of the show?
I'll tell you what they weren't doing.
They weren't fucking fighting well.
Yeah, obviously. Do you like the direction they're going with Asuka?
Yes, I think again, you once you get rid of Sasha and Bayley from the show, you give her people that she can defend against. I love that they're playing the long game with Shayna here. So it's smart, which is shocking that I say this about this company often, but it's actually smart that they're keeping Shayna and Asuka separated until absolutely possible. I think we might get Shayna and Asuka at Royal Rumble.
Yeah, it's looking that way. Honestly, Asuka Mickie James is a great program. We've seen it before, but it's been a while, so it's still kind of fresh. Even if they add Natalya into the mix, which I think that they should, it's still going to be a great program. I think they're doing amazing work. And, you know, just this is what everyone wanted to see, right? Like, this is what, and then we get Riot Squad is eventually going to face Shayna and Nia Jax at one point at some pay-per-view or
probably a Clash. They're saying now clearly at Clash there will be all title matches at Clash, which makes sense if you're going to do like that big Orton turn, because then you would build. I think right now the big hanging issue right now is the fact that Keith Lee beat Orton 1-on-1, so he still has that over Orton. So I'd have Orton beat Drew at Clash of Champions, and I'm going to say this again in 4 weeks. I think Orton's going to finally win it, and then you have either you start Lee and McIntyre to try and get to Orton, and then you give Orton that month off or whatever. But the thing is like, don't nobody want to see Orton Reigns at Survivor Series?
No, so that's why I think Drew McIntyre is probably going to win.
Yeah, you're right. Unless they do a quick turn, and you're just not going to have Keith Lee win on a Raw, though. That's just not what you do. Yeah. I would just love to see that match. I don't know. Anything else happen on Raw?
No, not really. I mean, I personally didn't enjoy much of Raw, but then again, I was watching possibly the longest running storyline of the last 20 years in R&B, which is Monica versus Brandy. You could put that on a pay-per-view, and I'd buy it. The
tension, you could cut that with a knife, I tell you.
You could. They don't make programs like that anymore.
Tonight we have NXT, so of course you can be on the lookout for the War Report. They will be talking. Cyrus has a guest. I don't know who it is. He never tells us. But they're going to be talking about NXT, big Super Tuesday main event, the 4-hour Ironman, or not 4 hour, holy shit, 1 hour, 4-way Ironman
match. It'll
match.
Seem like 4 hours. I'm sure it will.
Not with commercials. I wouldn't say that. Not with the commercials. And then you have Dynamite and All Out. So a big weekend for Cyrus and his guests. So listen to all of those predictions and outcomes this week on the War Report this week. Again,
make sure you listen to the Rewriters Room too. Make sure you listen to the episode of the Rewriters Room. Shawn Michaels broke his back. What happens if he doesn't break his back? Who knows? A lot more drugs, maybe. Who knows?
Oh my God! He'll find Jesus maybe earlier. Sooner. Who knows?
No, he finds Jesus way later, like
2000s,
like 2005. He's just like, oh my God, Jesus. Where was it?
So yeah, thank you all once again, the listeners, for making the A show what it is. 150. We got.
Oh my
50.
God! Wait a minute. If Shawn Michaels never breaks his back, like he never opens that school, he never trains Daniel Bryan.
You think he doesn't open the school? I think he would still open the school, just not be there.
But who trained Daniel Bryan? Doesn't go there if Shawn Michaels is not
training.
You're
right. Wow. They don't talk about that.
Crazy,
do they?
right? I don't think so, but
what if the rewriters room had brought that up? That's the new episode. What if the rewriters room brought that up? I don't know.
Listen. We gonna talk about it. We gonna talk about it in a little bit. But yeah, no, that's it, man. That's it. That's all we got.
Thank you all for listening to the A Show for the past 150 weeks. We really appreciate all your support. As always, please subscribe to our channel. Leave us 5 stars, of course. But once again, at me, at OGJohnny5, or Meelz, at Meelz TV. Tell us what you want to hear in the next 50 episodes, what you want us to talk about. Next 50 episodes is fans' choice. It's the road to 200. And from 200, we I don't know where we go from there, but there's a lot of shit going down. But thank you through the slow times of course, the COVID era and that really weird Raw period from 2018 where we hated every single show to now where it's starting to get popping again. We love all of you guys. Thank you for listening. And as always, please stay safe. Please wear a damn mask. And we'll see you guys later. Peace out.
Happy Rusev Day.
Yeah, I'm going to cut that out.